We had open market sponsor a reception for our leadership council, and we absolutely appreciate those cocktails and nice roasted vegetables. And then we had a fabulous steak dinner at Shula's for the leadership council, and that was sponsored by Sequent. So without that, we certainly couldn't have those two opportunities. And throughout today, not only do we have these 4 powerful panels going on, but we also have a networking reception immediately following today's classroom, and that's sponsored by Mojiva. And it'll be in the same room where we're having our lunch. And our lunch is in the school cafeteria, but we have a cordoned off area of the terrace as well. And with that, now that we're kind of quiet, I'll go sit in my moderator spot and be the moderator for this location-based services panel. We good? So those of you who don't know me, is this on? So I'm Kate Kingberger with CTIA, part of the wireless internet development trifecta team of Athena, Jeff, and myself. And one thing that I've been working on for the last couple of years is location-based services, and CTIA, with the work of some pretty important and smart attorneys, published a location-based services best practices and guidelines. Anyone who wants to can either contact me directly. It's on the CTIA's website as well. We're happy to have that published. So for today, for the structure of the panel, what I'd like to do is have each of the panelists introduce themselves, give a 5-minute overview of their company and their own experience in the location-based services, and then we're going to be focusing on the advertising aspects of those location services. And we absolutely want it to be as interactive as possible once we go into the questions and the debates of overcoming the impediments in the advertising model here in mobile advertising. So I'm going to actually start at the Walt and have you introduce yourself first. So thanks for coming.
Well, great. Thanks, Kate, and thanks for putting on a great show. I'm Walt Doyle. I'm the CEO of uLocate Communications. We're a small company based up in Boston. We're predominantly known for our consumer application Ware, as well as our platform, the Ware platform, which empowers a number of brands and assists in location capability. We came at this space, started about 5 years ago. I joined a little over 3. Sort of fascinated with location and the handset. Like so many people, it just seems dead dumb and obvious that if you've got this third screen in your hand and it knows where it is, that you should be able to pull together a pretty compelling consumer experience against that and monetize that experience through search, advertising, and commerce. It was a little bit more challenging than we thought, and it's taken us a little bit longer than we thought. The good news, though, I think, is Paul and everybody else has noted, is that we're really beginning to see all the effects of the perfect storm, from the convergence of handsets to the opening of location by operators to overall consumption by consumers. Our business has grown dramatically, especially this past year. We should hit, in terms of profitability, later this summer, which is great for a startup. I'm sure many people have been in that situation, but for a time it didn't look like we would ever get there because it was just so difficult to build anything in this friction-ridden environment. Our Ware application has over 1 million registered users and growing about 20% month over month. It's an application that helps save you time, saves you money, and focuses a lot on local search. We are also opening our aperture a bit more in the local space. We'll be launching the traffic.com applications as well as the Superpages applications to really, again, focus in on creating a beneficial local experience for the consumer that saves you time and saves you money.
Great. David?
Great, thanks. I'm David Rogers. I'm Executive Director of the Center on Global Brand Leadership here at Columbia Business School. Delighted to be here and taking part with CTIA and also the Columbia Institute on Tele-Information. CITI has been a part of some of our events as well, and it's great to collaborate. Ellie Noem was here recently for a conference series which we started 2 years ago called Bright, Brands, Innovation, and Technology. This has been an area that I've been focusing on a lot, is working with companies looking at issues of how a number of new emerging technologies, whether it's social media, mobile social networking, other mobile things, crowdsourcing platforms, real-time web, such as Twitter. How all of these are shaping brands really from the point of product development all the way through to communications, engagement, and building relationships with customers. I'm working on a book on this right now, looking at customer networks. And their sort of changing role and the growing source of power for customers who are, I think businesses need to rethink of customers no longer as sort of individual agents or kind of millions of us kind of out there as separate actors, but really as networks which are very dynamic, very fluid, very capable of interacting with each other. Customers have power of communication, of production, of distribution, and so companies have to step back and think, well, where do we fit into this equation now? Rethink our role. And the fact is, in terms of advertising, customers don't like advertising. I don't really like advertising most of the time I experience it. And I think in the mobile space, we have to think about, are we going to take see this as just an opportunity to, kind of ram some more banner ads down people's throats? Or are we going to, engage them? Are we going to create something that's got some value and is going to lead to a more permission-based relationship where people are seeking us out and building, Gillette was mentioned previously, building a sort of a long-term, really valuable relationship and affiliation with a brand. I think there's potential for that. Maybe the easy first step is to say, well, let's do direct marketing. We'll give discounts. We'll use location to sort of target an offer. You click through and get this, a special deal. But I think we can also look more creatively at it. Think about what sort of utility we can give to the customers as the basis of a richer relationship with our brand, and what that might be from their perspective. And I think LBS, location brings up a lot of really exciting opportunities for innovation. We're starting to see some of this, but I'd like to suggest we can do much more. But just thinking about apps that I have used on my own phone. My phone allows me to, it extends my memory in a location-based way. I have an Evernote application, so I can be someplace, see something that's interesting, I take a photo of it, or I make an audio note, records it, it's synced up into the cloud. I've got this information, whether it's a wine I liked, or a restaurant I liked, or an interesting piece of public art, and it's location tagged. Another area, of course, social networking. You've got new players like Looped and Brightkite and so forth. Looking at a real interest among consumers, how can we use LBS to relate to our social graph in new and really exciting ways? How can companies use that as a way to deepen their relationship? How do we find out about people who are like us? Sense Networks, company co-founded by actually a computer science professor here at Columbia, Tony Jabbar. They've got some really interesting things they're developing where basically, you can find out simply on the basis of where you go. It's tracking your physical location, not just in a moment, but your sort of flow through time, where you're going through an urban center like New York, and it categorizes you within a certain demographic profile because of where you go. I can tell, you're sort of a homebody, or maybe you're a weekender. You go certain places in the city, but on the weekends you always leave the city. Or you're sort of a, young nightlife seeker. Then you can go to another city, and using CITI networks, you can find out, well, where are other people like me right now? Where are they hanging out? What are the cool night spots? What are the arty spots to go, and the galleries and so forth in San Francisco when I get in town? Traffic. Location-based systems are not just in our phones, they're also in our cars. Honda has a really cutting-edge platform in Japan, the InterNavi system. I know Dash, I believe, is a startup trying to bring a similar system to the U.S., aggregating user data and creating a dynamic, building on the GPS platform within a car. We can also have, reviews and information about where we are. I think gaming experiences, we need to look at how they come into, LBS. I mean, years ago when they first came out with GPS for hikers, this is like your portable GPS you'd carry around. And people just started creating games. It's like, okay, well, they'd be planting prizes and clues and so forth on trails, you know, throughout a national park, and you would find out about online, and then you'd be using your clues and using your GPS and trying to find these things. Well, why couldn't brands be doing something like that? You know, at the end of the day, you succeed, you get to this really cool party that's being thrown by, you know, brand X, if you find all the clues. Lastly, I think if we just think of the brand experience, overall, you know, what are the experiences we can create with a mobile computing device? I mentioned the iFood Assistant, and maybe we'll get to it later. You know, your shopping experience, Urban Spoon, going out to eat, the kinds of things that Wear is providing. You know, what are you looking for when you're out and about? And I think if brands look at the kind of utility they can provide consumers and think about what sort of brand experience they might have, the same way that, you know, retail is increasingly seen as, you know, not just a point of purchase, but a point of creating a powerful brand experience for your consumers, because if all they want to do is buy, they might as well go to Amazon. You know, and we should be looking at the mobile experience, and particularly the location identified mobile experience, in the same way. So I would just encourage everyone to be innovative and think not just about what's available right now, but what could be made and could be developed, like my fellow panelists are clearly doing in their own businesses.
Thanks, David. Kate?
My name is Kate Imbach. I am the marketing director at Skyhook Wireless. We provide a hybrid location system, and the core technology in that is the Wi-Fi positioning system. So the way it works is that we've had drivers literally drive up and down every single street in our covered cities and map the locations of Wi-Fi access points. So like that guy up there, it's just, when it's on, it broadcasts a signal beacon called a MAC address. And that's the same thing that your laptop picks up whenever you turn it on and see what access points are surrounding you that you can potentially connect to. So we've got a lot of brains and a lot of PhDs that have figured out how those signals kind of propagate over space, and we've developed a positioning system based around that. So we have 100 million access points in our database worldwide and coverage throughout most of Europe, Asia, and North America and Australia. So that's the core technology in the hybrid positioning system. It serves as a complement to GPS. It's not really competitive. GPS wouldn't work in here because it needs a line of sight to the sky. It also doesn't really work that well in cities like Manhattan. It works perfectly on highways for navigation, and it works well in rural areas and open fields. But between ceilings and buildings and signal distortion, GPS can take a really long time to figure out where you are, if it does at all, in urban areas, and it can also be really inaccurate. So if you use our system, which combines GPS, the Wi-Fi positioning system, and cell ID as kind of a backup, you've got a system that works in all environments where consumers would travel. I think GPS was not designed to be used for the way that we're using it now, the way that we're using location now on smartphones with consumer applications, like searching for nightlife activities or searching for public toilets or whatever the application is that you're using. So our two biggest customers are Apple. We provide the location platform on the iPhone. So any location application, or any application that requests location, uses Skyhook. So we see over 200 million location lookups per day across our network, from the iPhone and iPod Touch usage and the rest of our customers. We also now work with Dell, so all Dell netbooks that come out will be Skyhook location enabled. So we also have a pretty large developer network. If you're a developer on Android and Symbian and you want to use better location than is provided just by native GPS or location APIs on a device, you can add our location through our SDK. And so through that, we talk to we have a ton of developers in the system. We talk to a lot of them. They're all looking to monetize their applications. And we have been working to figure out location-based advertising, because if these developers are in our network or using our location system, they're planning to monetize their applications. With advertising, we should figure out some sort of way to marry the two, and I think we can talk about this later, but what we found is that it's just, it's not there yet. It's coming. We need to figure it out, because everyone will make more money if we do. But right now, it's still pretty early.
Would that be the walking or toddler stage?
Yeah. Yeah.
Isais?
First, thanks so much for inviting me. My name is Isais Sudit. I'm the CEO of Loc-Aid Technologies, Boca Raton, Florida company. We are the leading location aggregation company in the market. We have close to 130 million addressable subscribers today on our networks. We are a B2B company, so we don't have a direct-to-consumer business model. We emulate our business model very closely to the SMS aggregation business model. So for you to understand how we actually monetize location, we're working with major Tier 1 carriers, both in the North American, South American markets, and soon in the European market as well. We basically work on this idea that location should be transparent both for the company who's using it and the end user. So we believe that there is no need for an application or a specific device to actually access location. Thus, we are a network query type of location aggregation service. We've been in the location market for close to 16 years. We come from the telematics area, our segment. So we think we kind of understand location. I don't know what we do, but we think. Very excited to be here talking to you guys about location and advertisement.
Great. Well, thanks to all of you all. And I had some quotable statistics that might not be, Steve Largent's $9 billion growth of mobile data, but they're absolutely hilarious. If caught in the rain and if the customer had a choice between a mobile phone or an umbrella, 37% of Americans would choose their mobile phone over the umbrella. 60% of Americans would rather abstain from alcohol for a week than give up their mobile phone. Now, I know here we have CBS here. 1 in 3 would give up their television forever to keep their mobile phone. And then back to Ellie's toothpaste comment, my funny one, is the passionate minority of 15% of Americans said they would rather have their teeth drilled at a dentist office than give up their mobile phone for just a week. So linking that into the comments we've heard earlier today regarding the recency and the importance of having the customer interact with their mobile phone and the importance of having location. Not only could they find a dentist office if they really wanted to give up their mobile phone, what I've already heard today is the customer resistance to advertising overall. And what I like about this panel in location is that, yes, you opt in for location sharing, and there's multiple technologies that make it very easy to communicate with customers without them having to initiate communication to pull that information. Later today we have another panel on technological innovation. So in a way it's going to be hard to restrict this location-based advertising panel to only talk about the real enabling portions of location in advertising. But I'd love to get some comments and interaction going, and I absolutely like the brain power we have in the room, and feel free to raise your hand and interact. If you don't know these guys already and gals already, you will by the end of today, because there's nothing like locking 100 people up in a small room to get everyone to be friends very closely. So Kate, I'm going to start with you because you're echoing a comment from earlier that came from AT&T, is trying to understand what this is the year of. Is it the year of location-based advertising? And if it's not yet, that's one of the major questions I'd love to have this panel leave with. So if it's not yet, what do you feel are the largest impediments of overcoming customer resistance to advertising utilizing location?
I know it's not the year of location-based advertising, unfortunately. It's probably 2016 until we can say that. But so I've looked a lot into this space, mostly from the developer's perspective, to try and figure out how we can make it work for them. And what I think the problem is that the business model for mobile advertising is broken in terms of location-based advertising. So if you're an ad network sales dude, you're selling impressions. So you're selling as many as you can for a mobile campaign that for $30,000 or $50,000. If I come to you and I say I have targeted ads that I can deliver to just women in Boston at this street corner, you're not going to get anywhere near as many impressions as you need to serve. So it's just the way that we think about mobile advertising, and I think the way that mobile advertising in most cases right now is sold just doesn't kind of meet that, the ability that we have to target. The inventory isn't there. And so the resistance that I see a lot from developers is just that it's a little too hard to integrate, so we can put an AdMob ad up in our app and make $2 a day, and we'll kind of just throw it up there, and that's fine. Or for low volume stuff, you can make a lot of money if it's higher volume, but for the lower volume stuff, they kind of throw in ads. There's a lot bigger potential to target more, but it's not the kind of the willingness of the advertisers isn't there. The willingness of the developer to stick the ads in isn't quite there yet. The inventory isn't there. So I think it'll happen, and I think it's coming together, and I think that some of the ad networks are starting to move forward, and the developers are receptive to that, but it's not quite there yet.
Okay. Walt, I'm going to call on you to follow up on that, given where's consumer focus, and then hopefully you can talk a little bit more about what you see on the developer side.
Sure. Well, I think, it's nice to have an educated audience. I don't think anybody needs to be taught about anything about location or advertising or anything like that. I would say that, because I'm sitting next to a professor, I have to say something smart, that, we're really at the beginning stages of this. And interestingly, in the media world, I think that mobile is mimicking its predecessor, which is really the web, the desktop web. And that's what has happened forever and ever and ever. I mean, if you look at when the web first came out, people were scanning magazines and putting them up. And then people realized, well, wait a second, that's not really the way this should work. And then the advertising, search and advertising began to mature, and the underlying components of that architecture began to mature as well. I mean, this goes all the way back to the automobile industry, right? The first automobile came out with reins. Somebody's like, I ride a horse, I should ride my car, right? Well, that didn't really work, but it took a while, and they figured it out. Today, with the inventory of banners and things like that, it kind of works, and you can do the targeting stuff, but it's not really what mobile was meant for. I don't think that we've reached that seminal moment of understanding the power of direct marketing and what people would really find beneficial, and then we can all make a lot of money on it. I think we're beginning to see that, and location is clearly an important component of that. I mean, if you think about direct marketing, it's about time, location, context, and this is a really important aspect of that capability. I do think that we'll see much more direct marketing come out this year. We're doing some pretty interesting things that are in the testing and planning stage, largely with network-based location, where everybody knows network-based location doesn't use assisted GPS, doesn't use Wi-Fi. Based on the FCC mandate many years ago, the operators had to locate a cell phone. They spent a lot of money doing that, and it took a long time, and now they're beginning to open that up. Perhaps because of the sort of depreciating value of that. I think that the operators look at this and say, we have this gem, right, that we can see everybody's phone. Don't let anybody use it except for us, right? And then all of a sudden, Google comes out with this thing, you can see every phone, and Skyhook comes out with this thing, and maybe the operators kind of woke up and said, wait, this thing of this enormous value is suddenly a depreciating asset. We better get this thing out there and understand what we can do with it. Now, understanding, of course, all the concerns in the most highly regulated industry, it's not an easy thing to do, but we're getting there. And I think that from a location perspective, is one of the most important things that we'll see rolling out this year, is how we utilize that in the form of direct marketing that's beneficial to the consumer that we can make money on. Combined with, the overall market, of course, I think Walt Mossberg and Kara Swisher at the All Things D conference he had just a great line. He said, we're at the tip of the spear in this industry, where the iPhone really hearkened in, the arrival of Web 3.0. Where the thin client running on these edge devices will really become the fabric of people's lives. Back to your point of what would you give up for your mobile phone? And that this arrival is really perhaps more important than electricity. I don't know, and that's what Walt said. So maybe it is. But I think that the monetization of that is beginning to come. I think that the ad networks have done a great job. On our consumer products, you've got a 97% fill rate, and you read a lot out there about how people are getting a 15-cent CPM. We've got a $5 eCPM, you know, it works. And the click-through rate is pretty good, and the campaigns we're running are pretty good. I do think it's still kind of clunky, you know, a banner running on a mobile phone. I just think we can do better as we're looking at new units and new things. But it's happening, and it's great that we can all start making a little bit of money in the industry. So.
Well, great, and I'm going to turn the comments over to Isais, given that your comments were regarding the inhibitions previous for the network technology and enabling that, I think plays directly into Isais' experience.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kate. So it's great to have this audience here because one of the things that I heard from Professor Noam and I think the panelists before, and it's repeating itself, is there's two things that we really need to put a lot of emphasis on, and it's reach and fragmentation. And I'll explain a little bit what I mean by that. I think reach definitely is related to fragmentation, but if you look on the locations page, and I think that Walt mentioned it very well, you have multiple layers of location technology out there, and it's extremely confusing for both companies and end users to really interact with these technologies. You know, and we can go over the list, but there is over probably 8 to 9 different technologies today in North America alone. And it's making the market, you know, fragmented. So it's hard to actually go and have 100% reach the way that the location technology is fragmented today. We work with probably 40 Fortune 500 and 1,000 companies today, and they all have the same comments. Say, you know, Isais, you know, we need reach, and the problem is that we don't know how to actually handle this fragmentation. And then the fragmentation that they're talking about goes a little beyond location, but it's related to location because, you know, you have companies that have to deal with multiple operating systems, right? Like web, like iPhone, like Linux, like Wimo. And then you have companies that have to actually think about their end users, how they download the apps on 12 or 15 different application stores. So now you have an application store fragmentation. And then on top of that, you have fragmentation on the advertising world. And, you know, like Walt was saying, are you doing banner apps, push, pull, SMS, white space, you know, I can think click to action, TV, I mean, we can go forever. But, you know, the fragmentation is so huge right now and so many different layers that location, I think it's just a piece. And I think we need to look at this holistically to make this really happen. And part of that is where, at least where Loc-Aid is trying to help, is to really standardize and try to actually make location access and location delivery very simple, very manageable, and like, you know, Kate was saying, an easy way to monetize this. So again, you know, being this audience, I think that we really need to put emphasis on those two things. And I think the panel before mentioned about reach. I think that we talked about reach like 12 times, and I think location is part of that. To make a successful location campaign, you need reach. You need 100% reach to make it valuable. So the way that location is happening today, either through the iPhone or through a BlackBerry phone or through, you know, any other type of a client, it's not getting that reach, and it's not getting to the audience that we really need, you know, to get.
Well, those are some great impediments. David, did you see anything? Because I know you interact with some brands directly, and if you wanted to make some comments on impediments.
Sure. I think reach is definitely an issue. The question is, you know, how do you solve it, and do you try to avoid or solve the dilemma of fragmentation, or do you shift your paradigm of what you're looking for? Is your goal to reach as many customers as possible? Are you still going for broadcast, or are you going to go for narrowcast? Are you going to try to target and develop a different kind of relationship, different kind of transaction with your customer?
Okay, thanks. So what we've got here is a lot of questions based on technology, obviously the business model. The one voice that we don't have on this panel is a direct advertiser enabler, and I don't know, I've got Mojiva in the audience. Is there anyone else that would like to make some comments on what type of impediments are out there that they really would like to see for location to be enabled and assisting larger advertising dollars and monetizing this for the end consumer? Kate, with Mojiva, did you want to make any comments specific to this?
Well, about the impediments, probably not. I'm Kate Berg, head of corporate communications for Mojiva. We're on a platform and network right here in New York City. Thanks.
I have a comment about specifically LBS where it is today, and we're all very focused on the amazing technologies like Skyhook and Loc-Aid and all you guys are creating that are very on a very personal space level, which is the ultimate goal. But I'm brought back to the talented 5-year-old that we were talking about, and how I can see this kid looking at his older sister and saying, I should be doing those things, but he hasn't gotten there yet, but he will if he keeps getting fed the right things and this market keeps growing and the audience keeps growing. I think we're going to get there, but right now there are things that are available for agencies like Mojiva on a really real level, just basically targeting city, zip code, and even neighborhood. And this can be a very effective campaign for local, food chains, drugstores, any kind of brand with couponing, and even the mom and pops can really run effective campaigns that drive real revenues for them. And that's happening now all over. And Mobile World Congress, for example, Mojiva ran in-house ads all through Barcelona for the week that 75,000 people descended on that city, and we really were able to get our name out there, and lots of other brands were doing the same. So that's just one observation from my end of things.
From the Skyhook perspective, and this is kind of what we're selling, so this is what I'll talk about. So we think, zip code is good and city level stuff is good, but I clicked through an ad once where it was like for Verizon or Bank of America or some, I'm sorry. But so I clicked through, and it was like, it was in a location-based app, and then I click through, and I get like this splash screen where I have to enter my zip code. So it's like, so much about where I am. You've seen my lookups across, 10 different cities, and then I'm still putting in my zip code. In Barcelona,
I think that's Verizon's preferred way of working, because when I call them, they ask me my phone number usually 3 times. So it's just a corporate culture thing and technology.
We picked on AT&T the last panel, so we'll pick on Verizon this panel. T-Mobile and... I'm
still a loyal customer. It's just kind of a quirk of theirs.
Sorry, Verizon guy.
He's taking that as a compliment.
So just about Barcelona, for us, what we try and say is, I have no idea when I am at Mobile World Congress, like what's around the corner, or what the zip code is, So it's good, and you can get a lot out of just that level of targeting. But I think if we can sort of drive it to like the current, where you are, what corner you're at, it makes a big difference, or could in kind of ads that we'll see.
I'd just say it's not just the technology here. We have a lot of capability to target, to 3-meter accuracy now, but there's not really a market for that yet. As somebody said, Mojiva said, we sell by city. And in fact, we've got a campaign running right now, a Corona campaign running, just in Manhattan on Where, and it's doing pretty well. But nobody has the inventory that says, hey, I want to buy this Best Buy store, right here. Nobody sells that. You wouldn't, as a network, you wouldn't go out and sell it. It just doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's maturity which needs to occur, across the ecosystem, I think.
The question I really have, for all of you guys is
Can you
this.
introduce yourself?
Lawrence, get out of this seat here. Lawrence Griffith, Sample Saint. The question is, we're really talking about targeting, and I think that's great, and you can have all the brain power in the world to figure out algorithms and how you target folks, but the real question is, what happens once you reach the consumer? I think personally the consumer is probably tired of being so inundated with so many messages, and now it's on your phone, right? I think what you have to do is begin to think of what I call actionable advertising. You've reached me, now what? Can you give me something that I value? Can you give me something that I can now take to the store and use it? So the bigger question is, for the 4 of you, what do you see in the near future or the far future or whatever in terms of what I call actionable advertising? We've reached them. Now what can we give the consumer immediately that's going to allow them, that's going to give them true value. And the first gentleman, what's your name?
Walt.
Yeah, you sort of touched on it earlier, I think. Some of your earlier comments. So, what does that really look like?
All right. I'll let you guys into a little
Where's
one.
the money?
All right, I'll let you guys into a little one we're working on now. And everybody's heard about it a million times. We've all talked about it, this, that, the other thing. But it's not Starbucks. It is not Starbucks. Although,
What's the year of?
all right, it's another big box retailer. Okay. Now, what you got to do is present value to the end user, of course, right? We have all this targeting capability. We can do all this kind of stuff, but you want to give them something of value. So how about a discount on an item? If you purchase more than $200, you receive a $20 discount on the overall purchase. Now, it gets tricky because now you got to get back to the point, redemption point, right? And everybody's doing all this sort of barcode stuff and this, that, and the other thing, and that sort of integration nightmare. But you can actually do simpler stuff. That's just, make a simple code that lasts for 5 hours, and you type it in at the point of purchase. So, works like this. It's not 3-meter accuracy, but you got 20 DMAs that they really care about. And you've got a window of time where they know people are in their cars. Commuting hours, right? You marry that with applications and services that people are using at that time of travel, right? And you push a campaign down to those phones and handsets that says $20 off the purchase at this big box retailer within the next 3 hours. So if it's 5 o'clock, it goes to 8 o'clock, depending on where you are in the US. Redemption point then, easy to track, and comes in, and you can see actually the value of the campaign. So we're pretty close to doing this. I mean, it's not, all the super WYSIWYG, run my phone over the bar scanner, and it's not here's the Starbucks, it's not a push thing, but it's closer and closer and closer, and that's real value to the consumer. I mean, I would love to receive that, especially, if it's a retailer that I've opted in to receive discounts or something like that. It knows where I am, it can tell me how to get to the store, it gives me a window of time. I mean, pretty good, leveraging location, that's value and something that we can all make money on. It's not the Starbucks push thing, but we're getting there, Is that one good? Would you use that?
Well, what's the consumer experience there? How am I receiving it?
Well, that's Jill from...
Sorry.
Yep. I can't give it all away, Jill. I mean, maybe, this might not happen either, but we're getting close.
Is it text message? Is it email? Is it a pop-up? I mean, how do we see it?
There are certain things you can utilize within the handset now that are really pretty cool, from push technology, which I think is better than SMS for certain things. It's not on all platforms to the fragmentation point. But I would say with reach, let's say you run a campaign like that and you can hit 50,000 people, and you're going to get a 10 to 15% response rate. I care. I mean, John might not because he doesn't have the huge reach, but I'll tell you what, if I can get in the next 3 hours, bam, 5,000 people to come to my store and make a $200 purchase, and I can track it, that's not reach of 5 million people, but I care. That's pretty powerful stuff, right? So, not 5 million people. We're getting there.
At the end of the day, if you're a pizza guy, you're in the local pizza store, and you get on an idle Tuesday, 100 people to walk in and buy pizza.
You're crushed.
You're loving it.
Yeah.
Right? If you're, and by the way, if you're a Mercedes dealer, and you can get 10 people to come in on a weekend and buy your car.
One car.
10 come in, one buy.
Yeah, you love it. You sell something that, you sell Cheerios, and you don't care.
Randall, do you have some comments?
I want to ask
Randall from IAB.
I'm a technical dummy, so I want to ask a technical dummy's question about this. Very practically follow up. A year ago, I was in the market for a new car. I had a series of makes and models I was interested in. I kind of narrowed it down to 5 or 6 things. Each week, I took a jitney out to Shelter Island. I passed through Riverhead, where there are, I think, 20 car dealerships. And what I wanted to know is why I couldn't get on my phone, on a pure opt-in basis, why couldn't I find out which of those cars were on which lots at which prices? Is that a sales impediment? Is that a technology impediment? Is it a process impediment? Why is that stuff not happening now?
Well, Randall, you're bringing up a good point, and it's a piece I wanted to tie together from the earlier comments. We've got handset issues, we've got operating system issues, and then we've got the installed base and the fragmentation of technology issues. So I'm actually would like Isais to comment from Loc-Aid on a possible answer on that. Well, money, it costs money.
Were you looking at real time? Were you driving through this?
Yeah, basically.
Well, first of all, there's an issue of latency and how fast you get that location back to your phone, right? Because depending on the technology that you're using, if it's GPS or whatever, it could be 10 seconds to 30 seconds. So, you know, you look at your phone and you're past that dealership and the data doesn't mean anything anymore. So, right, so there is an issue of latency and speed of response. And then, second of all, like, you know, we were talking before, is the reach. I mean, you know, I don't know what type of phone you have. So I don't know what type of technology I can get from your phone. If it's GPS, if it's LID, if it's Wi-Fi, whatever it is, right? So that, again, those limitations of what type of phone, how fast I can get, the location accuracy, those things make difficult to actually pass that information to either the agency or the advertiser and then get you the right information that you need at that time. So on the location space, and I think we talked you know, multiple times, is again, it's an issue of technology and how the technology is being placed. Now, we all hope that the LTE networks and the 4G networks are going to be much more efficient based on the IMS and all the other standards that are coming in the market. And I think the presence will be more transparent to the end user, but you still will have to have quite a bit of work to make that accessible to the time and to, you know, to the accuracy that you're looking for.
And comments from Steve?
Sure. My name's Steve Spencer. I'm with BZAG. I have a two-part question. I'm going to assume that you guys can make LBS work and that advertisers will be able to get some sort of API for instant communication for targeting. At conferences like this, we talk about a lot of different examples of location-based services from the Starbucks. This guy's talking about loving it. I think that's really a McDonald's trademark, by the way. First question is, and it's sort of related, what is the real sweet spot in the demographic for location-based services? Is it the millennials? Is it the 20-somethings, Generation X, Y, you know, older guys, older gals, you know, Midwest, urbanites? Do we even know? That's question number one. Question number two is, what value products can successfully be marketed via LBS for, you know, instant time, space, and opportunity? Is it a cup of coffee that is $3, and how much can you get for an ad for that? Will someone really be driving by and get an LBS alert for a Mercedes and go, oh, God, I should have bought this Mercedes?
Well, that's what Randall's going to buy.
Well, you know, some of the guys here, you know, could do that. So my question is one of, do you guys have any sort of demographic information you could share about where you think the sweet spot is? And along those lines, you know, what value products do you think will do best with LBS?
Just for a kind of administrative input, CTIA is not for distracted driving, so if you're getting these announcements on your phone while driving, do pull over to read those messages.
Great plug.
And then secondly, for the demographics of LBS, we want everyone to opt in and maybe even double opt in to these services. But first I wanted to have David answer.
Or not, depending upon the service. Sure.
Okay, and I'm going to turn to David, our professor, for the demographics question, and then we'll interact.
I don't have any broad data on demographics. I think an interesting case, though, is the iFood, Kraft's iFood Assistant, which is an application which I don't think they've publicly released a firm number, but they've sort of indicated it's in the 7 figures, so, you know, over 1 million users. Interesting, this is not a free app, this is a paid application. So, and I expect as maybe more competitors come out, they may need to make it free. But so far they've gotten, you know, supposedly more than 1 million people to pay $1 to get this app. And the demographic is apparently they're going for sort of 25 to 54-year-old female. And obviously, you know, tech savvy. These are people who have or certainly tech adopters. They've got iPhones and they've got them with them while they're out shopping. And it's, I think, a great example of, you know, our previous question in terms of really basing it on creating value for the customer. and I've tried it out a little bit. I use epicurious.com as an app. So it's really about creating. I think I would avoid the sort of expectation that there's a sweet spot generationally. I think things are changing very quickly. The adoption curves are very fast. If we look at the received wisdom even a year ago about social media, for example, being for young people was laughable. It depends on what social media you talk. Twitter is much more used by people my age than teenagers. Facebook, of course, is having its biggest growth in the over 55 age segment. So I think it's really more about understanding, depending on what your offer is and what value you're offering, you're gonna draw a different demographic.
Kate, did you have also comments regarding the demographics?
I don't have any demographic data, but I do have. Yeah, we see a lot of we see all the location requests that come into our system, and so we've been doing some research into what that looks like. And mostly it's people who have an iPhone and press OK. They opt in, because it's like, this app is going to use your location. Is this okay? Yes or no? So when we see location being used as you would expect it to, we took a picture of the Boston Marathon, the day of the Boston Marathon towards the finish line compared to just a control day a month before. And location usage increased 3 times. And what's interesting about it is that it wasn't just people watching the race. It's across Boston. So people throughout this, there's more people throughout the city. We did the same thing with the St. Patrick's Day parade in New York. And so on the parade route, location increased against the control day by 4 or 5 times or something. And then also throughout New York, there's more traffic. So I don't know who those people are. We don't have any individual data on that, but we know there are more location requests, and you can see that there's huge potential for advertisers in those types of scenarios. We've done the same thing with train stations, and we're going to publish this all soon too. But I think people are using location in where population increases. People aren't using location like they used to just for navigation. They are looking, you've got hundreds of thousands of people looking at their phones on Boylston Street in Boston on April 20th. What are they doing and where are they looking next? So that's some cool stuff that we've looked at. So that's all I have towards demographics.
Isais, do you have any comments on the networks and the carrier perspective of this since you're B2B on the value?
First, it's a pleasure to work with all the carriers. Thank you. No, I think that it's really it's exciting to see location getting to be more accessible. We really would like to see the carriers to be a little more aggressive and a little more, I would say, open to ideas, specifically about location access. There is plenty of business to be made and goes beyond location advertisement. We see a huge amount of data coming from the machine-to-machine and mobile resource management and other type of messaging services that are huge. I mean, the numbers are billions of messages per month. So, and we are all here to make money, and I think that the carriers really need to really look into this seriously as a huge monetizing opportunity. But overall, I think that we are moving. I think we're past that nascent state, so I think that we are maturing. I think we're going to see quite a bit of movement in the next 2 quarters. But overall, I think things are looking very positive, at least for the location aggregation space.
Fabulous. Cisco, Larry, do you have some comments? Oh, good. I was looking for your carrier perspective. Kirsten?
Oh, thank you.
Larry, I'll turn to Kirsten first, and then
Sorry.
Kirsten first.
Okay. Yeah, what I would like to add is it is indeed, it's just a very fragmented market at this point. You see a lot of entrepreneurial activities, which is great. I do think, we need to build on, other things need to happen before it becomes a true reality. As Kate was saying, it's just, we are not at this stage at the moment. The most popular question, talking about questions, on the phone is really, anybody has a guess? Where are you now? So it is indeed interesting. We're talking about consumer interest. And on the Android platform, you do have an application now that allows you, if you're opting in, because that is really part of the issue. We're talking about privacy issues, regulatory issues, and a lot of operating and platform issues. They don't speak to each other. You need to opt in, share, be on the same platform and share this in order to make it a reality. So as long as the consumer, a la Google, has the choice to opt in when he wants to, where he wants to, so you don't know, to what cities I've been traveling to over the last, weeks. Maybe I don't want to share all this information, or where I'm hanging out and what spots. So those are the issues we're currently facing. But the technology is there. It's more, how do we harmonize it? In our BT labs in London, we have a showcase for retailers, and one of them it's Bluetooth based. But you have a shopping window, and the idea is the shopper goes by, and via Bluetooth technology, you just zoom in the barcode, or you scan this item, and then you could maybe find out whether the store has your shoe size. So it's not an easy.
Not a
the
Mercedes
consumer
as you're driving yet, but
the
it's getting
consumer
close.
may like it. However, the retailer says, well, I don't just want to be a catalog. I want the consumer to come into the store, maybe buy another pair of shoes. So, these are labs. So we're not saying this is, the most economic solution. But those are the things that are currently being discussed. So I think it's a great initiative, though. And I meet a lot of LBS-based companies for fun. And one is called, for the part of who do speak French here, it's called Meet Moi. It's actually a location. I haven't tried it yet. If anybody has an experience, I'd love to hear it. But this is interesting. It's a dating service based on location. So those things just come up. Another one I like, and then I'm going to stop, is on Android as well. It's about locating, to ensure that you're in a safe environment. So you can actually locate areas that have a lot of sex offenders. Wouldn't it be nice to know them all on with little dots? I don't think they go that far. But you do have an application on Android that allows you to get the information now. So I think it's an exciting phase, but it's far away from making it a global solution. So thank you.
And there are applications in public safety environment that are tracking delinquents. So I know that tracking of persons, whether it's sex offenders or not, absolutely occurs. But the Meet Moi goes back to Eli's example of the male whore, and so.
Tracking sex offenders doesn't go with the.
No, it's kind of yeah. Larry.
Sort of a question for the panel or anybody else who wants to comment on it, which is the title of the session is LBS and advertising, but it seems like for some people who are interested in location, advertisers or other applications, that the stuff around carrier LBS, costs, elaborate opt-in sort of procedures, whatnot, has steered at least some of the ecosystem towards just writing that off and focusing on GPS that's built into the devices and so forth. And I'd be interested in some commentary about the tension there between sort of carrier-based location systems versus sort of DIY, if you will, or especially as the GPS chips get cheaper.
I know that I didn't want to spend an hour talking about business model because, as we learn in many of our leadership council meetings, the world would be a fabulous place if only the carriers changed their business models. But that being said, I'm not sure who I should call on to comment on yours exactly. Are there any carriers that want to take that? I know we've got a few in the audience here.
I can say some stuff in the meantime. So we see this huge volume of location requests across our system. So it's over 200 million every single day. That means the average iPhone user, depending on how many devices you think are out there, requests location 6 times a day. So for the average application developer, and I think most carriers still charge for location, sell ID location per lookup. And if people are using location at the types of volumes that they are for consumer applications, that model just does not scale. So it's not, I think in a few applications the charge per lookup makes sense, but for most cases it doesn't work for the way that the market has changed.
And we charged.
Well, I guess the developer would be charged most of the time from the people that I see.
So Walt mentioned a click per cost. I know we've got Chip Hoffman from Mobile Tab who's very keen on the click per cost. Is there anyone else that wants to make comments? And call on Rick. Are you another question or a comment?
Question.
So let me finish on comments on this last one. Did you want to have any comments on the click per model and how advertisers may or may not be paying for this, and so that the carriers don't have to change their business?
Chip Hoffman with Mobile Tag. Worked with Google and a lot of people over the years, and advertising is a performance game. I think John, is that his name, was talking about, hey, at the end of the day, it's who's buying my product, and how do I get them to buy my product? Where does it showing up in my P&L as the GM of the particular brand? And they're used to paying for a transaction that can be monitored, measured, and then paid and invoiced. And if you look at, toll-free service is one of the early telecom direct response mechanisms that brands use. It's a $27 billion industry in the United States today. And about every brand, I'd be surprised if there's a brand in this room that doesn't use toll-free to communicate with their clients, and they have a business reason for it. And they're spending good money to do that, and they're happy with its performance. They probably would like to spend less. But those are all direct response mechanisms, but it's a transaction. And Google latched on that, and they're paying for transactions. So advertisers are used to that, but it's got to be performance-based. I think location is a key metric that they look for, but there's others, because they need to know how that media is performing. And CPC is an easy way for us as telecom providers to do that.
Does that help, Larry? I'm going to put it in perspective. Another question, Rick? I'm going to call on Rick first.
I guess it goes back to, someone had mentioned the Starbucks example when it came to location-based, and everybody smiled because we've all heard that for years. But my question would be, it sounds like a good idea, and it always has sounded like a good idea. Why is it sort of not working, and what is working now in location-based as it's relevant to advertising? And then, sort of, and I asked the last panel as well, not only what is working now, but where is that going to go?
I think there's so many dimensions of this. Location and advertising, location and direct marketing, push notification, SMS. If you think about location as just an enabling technology, not a product in and unto itself, so you could do things like location-enabled SMS, KGB over there. Would that be effective for certain, sectors, search, stuff like that? Be huge, right? Well, that's not really location. It's just an enabling technology, but it provides huge value. And I think but how do you get to the various points in terms of the technology layer to enable certain things? And we could all probably spend about 3 days in here talking through.
I guess my question would be, who's making money today?
Well, if you think about it from sort of we're making money. All the nav guys are making money. The carriers are starting to make money. I don't think we've seen it in the ad network really utilized to what it should be doing. Search is obviously going to be all over location. I mean, it's everything. So I kind of think of things sort of the core versus the edge, right? Where you've got folks like Loc-Aid really operating at the core, Skyhook as well. We started out at the core because we said, boy, location is really complicated and there needs to be a location clearinghouse, right? To help make sense of all this stuff so that you could take a user's MDN and location and add profile data to it and then open that up more broadly with privacy rules and all that kind of stuff. And over time, really in the past, 9 months, as the edge, I would say, consumer adoption began to occur, and that consumer adoption began to occur against devices that really already had location. And it was already readily available, albeit one-to-one. The location clearinghouse concept and this whole monster around location has started to dissipate because of its just general availability. Again, I said I'm sitting next to a professor. I had to try to say something smart. But I think a lot of people are starting to make money who play in the location sector now. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a couple of them who operate at the edge even get out and go public this year. They're making over $100 million, real businesses. So,
and I think the idea too is that if you've got an app like the music apps, like Shazam, which is now using location, or Pandora, which I don't think does, but if it did, say, what type of music I listen to, you pretty much know I live in Boston because that's like where I do all my location tagging and listening to music. And they're making some money off of advertising. I guess at least Shazam is, but why aren't if they know the type of music I like and where I live, why am I not getting advertisements for like stupid indie rock band shows that I want to go see? And if they did, I would go see it, I'd spend money, everyone would make more money. So, but like, why is that not happening? The inventory isn't there, all this stuff, there's technical challenges. I think we could all make a lot more money. Do the advertisers give a shit? I don't know, but it seems like it makes sense.
Is Larry from Ansible in the audience? I thought I saw him at the last break. I'm going to call on you in a second. I'm going to have Isais and Dave comment in if you have anything to say on this.
Sure. Again, I just, look for money in different places. You've got phone apps. Speaking of location-based SMS, Twinkle is a location-based Twitter platform. And it does change the experience. It's very interesting. Users will pay for that because you enter in conversations with people you don't know necessarily just because of your shared location. The iPhone app, in terms of which I mentioned before, the Craft iPhone app, which I mentioned before, they're making money both from selling the app, but also, they've got 7,000 recipes on there. So you go into the store, you use location to find a store that's near you. First you can pick, recipe of the day, you get some tips, you say, oh, I want a snack, I want this kind of meal, I want something healthy, or you pick from your options and you get some recommendations. You can convert it into a shopping list. You're on the go. It tells you where to go. Well, naturally, there's 7,000 meals tend to have a certain weighted score towards craft manufactured ingredients. They seem to keep showing up on a lot of those lists. So they're making money back that way as well. Are they, they're not selling, it's not direct marketing, they've got a coupon and they're carrying through and saying, oh, we sold this. They can also sell ad space because they can sell that then to the stores when people are looking for a store where they're going to shop. And I think they have started to do this, with the location feature, that the stores can give a discount. Say, oh, well, we're one of the 3 stores in your neighborhood, but this one is offering, a coupon. So, Craft in the situation, by innovating for the user's experience, has created multiple possible revenue streams. So we should look in different places for where the revenue is going to come from.
Great. Any thoughts or comments? I'm going to call on the advertiser, the one in charge of the dollars where the advertising is going, Larry Harris, CEO of Ansible.
It's not my money, but it's nice to play with. What's your question?
Well, the question is what's working and what's not, and what do you see your clients wanting to spend money on regarding location?
Without giving away too many secrets, I would say they want to be in apps. So there's a location app on the iPhone called Around Me. That's fantastic, that a lot of franchisees would like to reach out to AT&T and get a deal to be in there some way because it's actually better than the Yellow Pages and it's on your iPhone and it works fantastically. There's a big need on the part of box retailers to circle their store and have automatic circulars. Again, increasingly as we see in apps, the power of apps for brands, whether it's Kraft or Walmart, is that it's a persistent presence on your desktop that can flag and can deliver value through the network to your device. And you pick it, you put it there. If you're not a customer or Target, you don't need to have a Target thing on your phone. And then we see a lot of stuff around events. And so to the point of, yes, we know that there are people at the Boston Marathon and we know that there are points along the route when we would like to signal the fact that there is green beer available or what have you during a certain time that we know people are predisposed to go in and get a burger and a beer. And then, there's a lot of crowd events that are huge for sponsors, whether it's a concert. If we have an advertiser that's sponsoring Green Day, we would very much like to own the space around a Green Day concert appearance for certain retailers who've paid for that right. So it's a little more, today, it is to John Hale's point about immediate results for us. And we have big clients, so we're not trying to do, it's not really coming out of an innovation budget. And there's a dashboard that they're looking at, literally, as we're running it, that says that. And also a little different, we are coupled with other agencies, so we actually have drive-to and awareness of those features in those areas, which is pretty cost-effective because it's usually just outdoor or handouts or people who are standing around saying, do this. But that's kind of where the big money is, real locations that are tied to brands or near brands. We're not, with the exception of in Turkey, we're not really interrupting people. So on Turkcell, we do some stuff where easiest way to describe it. If you bought lunch at a Subway in Turkey, and you go near that Subway again the next day in that lunch window, Subway can text you a discount on Turkcell, and it's highly, highly, highly effective. And of course, we take great pains on the privacy part of that, which is a challenge in America. But in Turkey, they're like, hey, yeah, we'll keep the number and we'll do what we want to do. But that location stuff, the Turkcell it rocks. I mean, it's really tied to your previous purchase habit to a brand.
How do they know that you purchased previously?
We sent out a discount. You opted in for a discount or what was called a lunch club. All right?
Oh, okay. So you've already used the discount.
Right, but you only get it when you're close to a previous purchase area. So, for example, if you went to in another part of Turkey, if you went near that same brand, you would not get the same message. The way their privacy works, it has to be a previous purchase pattern.
Well, actually, I think those comments are fabulous segue to our lunch speaker. We have, I think, Harrington talking from the FTC talking about behavioral advertising. And while the CTIA's location-based services guidelines were 8 pages, their behavioral guidelines are almost 50 pages downloadable on their website. I know that we're immediately between the Turkey Subway and lunch. I want to thank all of my panelists and thank all of the audience participants. And CTA is all about getting deals done, so network away throughout the day.
Nice to meet you.